Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it may be when you are tuning in to this podcast. I want to welcome you to the Self Care Act, the show that is all about learning to love yourself, others, and life. I am your host, international award winning author and filmmaker, and empowerment specialist, Tennille M. Jackson. And I am just so excited about today's show. We typically give you all different types of tips on how you can stay aware, making sure that you are loving yourself, things that you can do to love others, ways that you can actually embrace life. We know that life is just so short. Every time you turn around, it seems like somebody else is leaving. And it's not just the world of celebrities anymore. And it's not even just older people, but literally every time you turn around, it seems like I'm seeing a rest in peace post. And even if I'm not seeing it, I might be actually posting it myself. And so I am so honored to be able to have today with me a guest who is all about not just this type of empowerment, but he knows about legacy. And in fact, that's kind of what he does. He is the owner of Gordon, I want to say is Gordon Legacy Consulting, and he will let me know if that is right or not. But you guys, please help me welcome my guest today, Mr. Tino Gordon. How you doing, Tino?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. That was
Thank
an
you so
amazing
much.
introduction. I appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for coming on this show. I really believe in what it is that you do. I might have jacked up the name of the company, so please forgive me if I did.
No, you
But
got it. Gordon Legacy Consulting.
yay! Okay, I'm so glad. I'm glad about that. I want to give you an opportunity, though, to introduce yourself. So, say if there is someone who had never met you before, they don't know about you. If someone was to ask you, who is Tino Gordon, how would you answer that question?
So, in the industry that I'm in the financial service industry, I got the nickname Commissioner Gordon, like the guy from Batman. But if somebody asks me, who am I simply say, I am just a guy who helps people become more intentional about the legacy that they're leaving. A
I
lot of times, it's either one of two ways. We're all going to leave a legacy. Most people leave one by accident. I just help people just become a little bit intentional about leaving the legacy.
Mhm. That's good. I love that, because legacy is something that I talk about often, and even and especially with my girls. I have 4 daughters, and I'm always talking to them about understanding what legacy is and how you can start leaving it at an early age. Like many times, people think that legacy is something that only elders, the elderly
Mhm.
can leave. So whenever they think legacy, they think someone that's in the, as we would say in the church world, the upper epsilon.
Mhm.
But if someone was to ask you, what is legacy? How would you define it?
Oh man, I am so glad you asked that question. So glad. Because a lot of people in my industry in financial services, they think about legacy as just the money that's left behind after paying for the funeral. So if you had, let's just say, a $10,000 policy and the funeral costs $8,000, they say, oh well, you left a $2,000 legacy.
Mm.
And I always tell people, legacy isn't just what you leave to people, but what you leave in them. Like, what
Yes.
is the story of your life? What meaning does your life have? How did it impact others? And not just your family or your children, your grandchildren, but all those other people around you. So I like to think of legacy in three parts. I usually say the three F's to a legacy. So think of legacy kind of like a tree. So a tree, you have at the base, you have the roots.
Hmm.
That's the first F, that's the foundation. So that's your
Hmm.
family, your friends, your churches, your community, the people who you grew up around, the things that shaped you. And then the trunk of the tree, I like to think of that as the second F, which is your finances, because everything costs something in this life. And they say, It depends on how far you go. Your finances help you grow tall in this world.
Mhm.
So that's the second F. And then the third F is the future. That's like the branches and the fruit. That then goes back to your family, your children, your grandchildren, the branches. Who have you branched out and connected to? But not only that, but what fruit did you produce?
Come on.
Because that fruit, inside that fruit are seeds. So it's not just what you left to the people, but what you left
Yeah.
in them, because
Yeah.
those seeds will then go to grow other trees and grow other fruit.
I love that, Tino. And so, first of all, so I'm not just a visionary, but I'm an author. So as you're talking, I'm an author and a publisher, editor. So like the literary part of me is going crazy as you're talking, because I'm hearing you saying, not just what you leave, like that financial part, but it's also, what you're leaving for them, what you're leaving in them, what you're leaving with them, right?
Mhm.
So the money is what you leave with them. And then, like you say, not only um with the money, so not only are you leaving the money with them, but then what it is that you gave, that you planted, that's going to be in them, and then the impact that it will have carrying forward, that's for them, right? So I love that. I love how you broke down legacy. And Tavetta says her goal is to live her purpose in a way that her legacy is that so her legacy is that she fulfilled her purpose and taught people how to discover and live their purpose. I think
Oh,
that
yeah.
that is, I think, because I think that when you are intentional in living, that's all of our purpose, right? That's our desire. I should say it like that. That's all of our desires, is
Mhm.
that we live in a way, and you use a word that I love to use, which is impact, because it should be intentional. We should
Yeah.
intentionally be impacting people every day. So I want to know. We're gonna try to start transitioning to talking about Gordon Legacy Consulting. To me, that seems like a very intentional type of industry to partake in. So, what got you inspired or interested in this line of work?
Oh, wow. So really, it's been all around me growing up. I it's funny because, especially thinking about financial services, insurance, things of that nature, nobody grows up saying, "Hey, I want to do that."
Yeah.
But it's been all around me looking back. Like, I remember people coming to my church and talking about investments and life insurance and finances. But what happened, one day, my uncle passed away.
Mm,
He was somebody who raised me, Uncle Joe, as I first began to call him, but then I called him Dad. He passed away, and I asked the funeral director, "How much did this cost?"
mm-hmm.
And he said $25,000.
Wow.
Yeah, and I just sat back and was just like, "Whoa, that's a lot of money."
Mm-hmm.
So when I got into financial services, my thing with insurance was just starting out, just helping people be able to fund a funeral, because thank God he was able to have such a big insurance policy that he was able to pay off that funeral and then leave some money for us to live, because I mean, I think we lived off of that money for a while.
Yeah.
But knowing that everybody wasn't in that situation, so I was mainly just focused on the financial piece. But then, after talking with my grandmother, I started to realize, well, she shined this light on me that you need to start paying attention more to the stories that your clients are telling you, because that's their true legacy. And
Mm-hmm.
I said, there's something there, because I'm always sharing stories and collecting stories. And one day I had a client pass away, and going to their funeral, I started to remember the stories that they were telling me. And I was sharing it with the family, and they said, you know, Grandpa never told us that. And I'm
Wow.
like, get out of here. What do you mean? What? I'm just thinking this is common knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And no, this is just a story. Like, I don't know what button I hit on him, but he just opened up and started sharing these things with me. And I was sharing them back with the family. And I was like, wow, if I didn't come, they wouldn't have had this legacy, this story. It was amazing. So I started paying more attention to that, and then just sitting there being intentional, you know, asking people like, what is it that you want to impact? What is it that you want to leave? Like your beliefs, your if you have a business, a cause, you know, because the financial part is just one part of it. But what
Mhm.
is it that you want people to know about you? How is it that you want to be remembered? You
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
we get too caught up in work and life sometimes that we sometimes forget about those things. But I want to bring our focus back to that, because at the end of the day, that's all we have.
Talk about it, because here's the thing, you just said something. Sometimes we get so busy with work and life that we forget about living.
Yeah,
You see what I'm
yeah,
saying? We're so caught up in all of the responsibilities, all of the mundane bills, you know, got to pay rent or mortgage, whatever, lights, gas, all the utilities, phone bills. I got to do this. I got to go to work or produce. I have to do, that we forget to be. We forget to purposely, purposely live, make sure that the things that we are doing, the people, first of all, that we are impacting and affecting people, I think that that is so important. And then when you were talking about the grandfather in this situation, I had a client slash friend who just recently passed away as well. She was 68. And like for me, I totally forgot how old she was because she was just my friend. You know what I'm
yeah,
trying to say?
yeah.
And there were memories and things that I had with her that people around her didn't have, because like you say, when you get to a place that you're comfortable with people, but more importantly that they're comfortable with you, then they will kind of open up. And so like when you are dealing, so matter of fact, let's just go into exactly what it is that you do. So Gordon Legacy Consulting, what is it and what specifically do you do? And then I'll go to my next question from there.
Yeah, so what I do on the outside is, again, going back to that tree example, I just figure out, okay, who is it that you want to impact on both ends? As far as the three pieces and the three F's to the legacy, the financial piece is probably the easiest part. You know, even though a lot of times a lot of clients talk about their financial struggles, I'm like, that's the easiest part. It's really the impact part. It's really
Mhm.
figuring out, okay, so now that we're able to grow your money tree in a sense, because that's just about planting seeds. You know, you
Mhm.
put X amount of dollars away, in the future you'll have, you know, a multiple of X amount of dollars that you put away. So it's
Mhm.
really figuring out, okay, now that I have the money, how do I protect it? And how do I pass it along? How do I grow my money? How do I first make my money, keep it, grow it, and then pass it along? That's what
Mhm.
I do in a nutshell. And then figure out like, where is it going and how do you want it to be used? But not just that, but what's the story behind it, so that it's not just wasted.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because so I want to let's just first of all, let's say this. If you are just now tuning in, my guest is none other than Mr. Tino Gordon of Gordon Legacy Consulting. And so we are talking about life insurance in a way that's kind of different than the regular way you hear it. Normally, when you're thinking life insurance, people are just talking to you in terms of like whole life or term life. But what Tino does is so much different, or is more special, because it's not just, he doesn't just refer to his clients as policies and policy numbers, right? Like you are a whole person with him. And that was one of the reasons why I want to bring him on the Self-Care Act, because this is a show where we talk about loving yourself, loving others, and loving life. And so being in the life insurance financial industry, number one, if you love yourself, then you're going to be living in a way so that when you're no longer here, those who you love can be impacted and they will be able to live a better life because of the legacy that you left. And so if you're watching this show, please feel free to say hello so that way Tino and I know that you're watching. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comment section. So whether you're watching this from Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, or even listening from the Wisdom app, please feel free to inbox any questions that you may have or post them live live on the comment screen, and we will definitely address those. And then finally, be sure to like and share the video and tag somebody that you believe will benefit from watching this broadcast. And so, if you know anybody, and I believe we all do, if you know someone who does not have life insurance, tag them to this broadcast, because unfortunately, and a lot of times it really seems like in the Black and brown communities, that life insurance is something that we look at as being something that's not for us, that's for rich people. I don't
Mhm.
have enough money to get life insurance. And so I'm just wondering, have you ever encountered someone or family with that mindset? Like, that's not something that I would be able to have.
Yeah, so I encounter it all the time, and that's why I have to go back to the roots of your tree. Figuring out what is it that you've been taught about money. Because the way I look at life insurance, it's just money.
Hmm.
You're just buying money
Hmm.
for a later day, for a later use. Now, a lot of people think that life insurance is just for death. But no, like even talking about self-care, what if you was to get a heart attack, get injury? What if you weren't able to work? What if you weren't able to take care of yourself, whether you're young or you're older? Now, your life insurance policy can actually pay you while you're alive to take care of yourself so you can live, especially for my senior people, not wanting to go into a nursing home but need the money for somebody to come in. Your life insurance policy can actually pay you so that you can still live those senior years with dignity. And for the
Hmm.
younger people, if you was to, one client told me he had his first heart attack at 32.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, 32. That really, because I'm 32 right now. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
said, yeah, six.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Let me tell you one of the things that I do know about heart health and things of that nature, because I'm actually a stroke survivor.
Mm.
And a lot of times, what they'll say is once you've had one, so whether it be heart attack or stroke, you're more susceptible to have another. And so, you want to make sure. So, like, how does someone, even in that type of a situation, say if I don't have the best medical history, like,
Mhm.
because I know that that's another thing. So is that a misconception, or is there some truth to it, that if you've had some medical conditions or pre-existing conditions, that you would be less likely to be able to be insured?
Yeah, so I know people believe that, but that's all about who you go through. So there are agents and there are brokers. Agents only work for one particular company. So if that company denies you, that's pretty much it with them. Me being a broker, I don't work for any one particular company. I work for you, the client. So whatever issue you have going on, it's my job to find a company that will best suit your needs and pair you with them, just point you in the right direction. Hey, that company over there, company A may have denied you. Let's try company B. There are companies that they all look at risk differently. So it's like, which one will be a best fit for you?
Mhm. Mhm. That's good. That's good. To Tavetta and Elder Kevin McGee, to Chris, to Joshua, Cecilia, Emma, and Julie, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And again, if you all have questions, feel free to ask those questions at this point, because we always want to make sure that you guys are getting something. We want to make sure that you're getting valuable information from watching the podcast. Now, when you talked about that, I remember I had an aunt that passed away. This was about 20 years ago, right at 20 years ago. And she, unfortunately, there was no life insurance.
Mhm.
And that was so difficult for us, because it was already having to go through losing yet another loved one, because she was like three in a row. First is my mother, then is my grandmother, their mother, and then my aunt. And so having to get these back to back blows. And once we got to her, and there was no life insurance, now there was an extra strain on the family, because now we have to try to figure out how we're going to get the monies together, And so, like, for those people who maybe, is not them, would you recommend there being a policy, like a family policy? Is there a way to do something like that where, you know, maybe I have my own life insurance, but maybe my nieces or nephews or whomever, cousins or whatever, people that I care about, maybe they don't. And if they pass away, I know that that burden may come on me. So is there something that I could do in a situation like that proactively?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. That is one of the best things you could do. Especially if you know that that burden is going to fall on you. You're going to be the one having to contact people, try to raise money, do fish fries, dinners, all of those things, the GoFundMe's. Look, it's better to just figure out what's a comfortable budget for you, and just be able to put that into an insurance plan and have that there, knowing that if anything were to happen to them, that you still have them covered. One thing that a lot of people don't know is that during the holidays, it's when a lot of people pass away.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's because of the food or the travel and being exposed to a lot of people, especially the seniors. Like, this is a true story. Somebody just contacted me last night, between last night and this morning, telling me that their uncle just passed away Friday, right after Thanksgiving.
Wow.
It's a sad thing, but it's just a fact that more people pass away during the holidays than any other time. And I know it's not something that we like to think about, but it happens.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And and I think that um even though you cannot escape the grief, right? Because
Mm,
again, unfortunately, 20 years ago, my grandmother died the day before Thanksgiving. So I
mm,
understand all too well what you're talking about. And so, whereas you may not be able to escape the grief, you can at least be comforted in knowing that, you know what, I'm not putting my family in any additional stress. Like the only thing that they're going to have to deal with is, and it's big enough, but missing me, missing my presence. But I don't have to have them now angry and upset because I've seen families fall apart. They're arguing. What do we do? And even I know that someone that I know, I won't say who, but someone I know, her father passed away, no insurance, and they had no choice but to cremate him. So have
mm.
you ever had situations like that? Like, how do you counsel or guide, advise your clients? Like, is there ever a time when you would recommend, okay, don't worry about burying, maybe you want to cremate, because I know you talked about your budget, what monies you have available. So speak a little bit more to that.
Yeah, so I'll tell you this story. So I have a client in South Carolina, and one day she calls me up and she tells me that her sister passed away. Now, her sister wasn't a client of mine, but the person who called me is a client of mine and somebody who I cherish and love dearly. So she was asking me, just, Tino, what do I do? I don't know if my sister had insurance, and if she did, it might just be something small. How are we gonna fund this funeral? And I said, you know what? Don't worry. Let's get the information that you do have. Like, let's figure out how much insurance she did have. Turns out she had a little bit of insurance, maybe about $4 or $5,000. Nothing big, but every little bit helps.
Mhm.
So, what I did, and it's something that I offer absolutely free to all of my clients, is just figuring out how we're going to get this done. I drove around the city for about a day or two, contacting different funeral homes, contacting different cemeteries. And what I was able to do is just kind of negotiate on her behalf. Hey, her sister just died. We don't know what happened. She just passed away suddenly. She only has a little bit of insurance. Can you help me out? How can we get this to work in the budget? Especially because if you've never planned a funeral, it can be overbearing.
My
You know,
goodness.
they charge for everything: underwear, socks, the hair, the makeup, transporting the body. What kind of gauges do you want on the casket? What kind of vault do you want? Do you want pillows? Do you want a cover? All of those things. the programs, all of those things add up. So what we did was we just asked people to donate flowers. I went and I made the programs myself, got them printed out. We did a grave site burial, all of these things. So at first that funeral was costing maybe about 15, $20,000, and we
Mhm.
had to just work it all the way down so it can get into her budget and get that thing done. So again, every little bit helps.
Mhm.
Something is better than nothing. And
Mhm.
then it's just about how do you use the money.
Mhm.
Don't just go to the funeral home with your insurance policy and be like, hey, because you're just giving them a blank check pretty much. But you
Mhm.
want to get an itemized price list of everything.
Mhm.
See, hey, we don't need this service. We don't need these items, and just kind of work your way down to what you can afford, and then making sure that you have somebody who can stay a little bit logical, because
That's
I've seen
good.
people buy things. For example, I've had somebody show me that they spent $250 on a casket key. It was a little locket, and it had the picture of their loved one in it, like in a heart.
Mhm.
And I said, okay, but you gave the funeral home that picture so that they can put it into the locket,
Mhm.
and you spent $200 on a $250 on a casket key.
Mhm.
You're never gonna dig up the casket and use the casket
Use
key.
key. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
$250 could have been a seed for something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Or somebody else. And like you say, I love that last part that you said about having somebody logical, because here's the thing that people don't understand. And I don't want to say this in a callous or, cruel type of way, but the funeral homes are a business, just like any other business. Just
Hmm.
like if you go to a grocery store and you're hungry, they're not looking out for your pockets. They have a business that they're trying to run. So Walmart, the way that they're trying to get your food, you go to a restaurant, they're like, oh, you hungry? You know what? You wanna upsize it? They're not caring. Do you got $5 or $10? They're trying to say, hey, well, if you got 10, you might have 20. Funeral homes are no different. Just because you may actually be grieving because you're going through your expectation as the person who is experiencing bereavement, you believe that everybody is feeling what you feel and that there is no way that somebody would take advantage of you. And though I'm not saying that they are purposely trying to take advantage of you, again, I say you have to remember that a funeral home is a business. They understand that you are grieving. They're gonna say, hey, what all can we get out of this deal? And as Tino said, if you just go in and you take them the policy and they see, okay, well, your loved one, maybe they had $1 million policy. If you don't think that they're gonna try to get you every premier service and they use special words, elite, they want you to have the best, the cream of the crop, like they will do paint all of those pictures. But again, understand, as Tino said, at the end of the day, if you choose to have your loved one buried, you're not digging that casket back up. And so, no, I'm not telling you put them in a wooden box, but I am saying make sure that, as he said, we talked about the foundation. Now we get to the trunk part, the financial part. Understand that your loved one is not just wanting to leave a legacy for you to bury it in the ground. This part is actually also about leaving something for you and your loved ones to live off of. So, Tino, when it comes to that financial piece, what are some ways? Because you said, hey, you know what? It's not even just about once you die. You talked about some things that people could use with their life insurance policies now. So, why don't you tell us? Let's just assume that those who are watching and listening, maybe they don't have life insurance. So, how could they say, if I am, I don't know, you said you're 32. So, say if I'm a 32-year-old and I bought a policy today, understanding that there is no one size fit all. So I understand that. So let's just walk through a general example of if you had a 32-year-old that had maybe one or two health issues, but they're looking to get insurance. So, how, first of all, around about how much, give a price range of what that insurance cost could look like per month, and then how can they make it work for them while they're living? Walk us through what that actually looks like.
Okay, so the first thing I would ask is, what are your goals? What is it that you want the policy to do? Because again, life insurance is just money. So, what is it that you want this money to be for? Are you looking just for, oh, if something happens to me, if I was to pass away, God forbid, I just want my family to be taken care of? Okay, so how much money do we need for your family to be taken care of? Do you need your mortgage paid off? Because sometimes we're dealing with couples, especially young couples, and it's just like, okay, well, if something happens to you, can your spouse still be able to pay for the mortgage? I've seen time and
Mhm,
time again people lose their house because the main breadwinner died and they couldn't afford the mortgage.
mhm,
And not only just that, but then if you have young kids, do we need to be able to pay somebody to take care of them while the spouse is at work? Or
mhm,
if they decide to stop working, how long can they not work for? So it's really figuring out what your goals are. So you have that situation. You have another situation where you can use life insurance to help supplement your retirement. You can put your money into a policy, let it grow tax deferred and tax free, and then take the money out of the policy to live off of, while in your later years. You could use your policy as a bank to grow your money and then take it out to invest into real estate or to start a business, because in fact, Ray Kroc with McDonald's, Walt Disney, they started their businesses with a life insurance policy. So it goes back to, what are your goals? Tell me where you want to be, and my job is just to help you design a bridge to get there using life insurance and other tools that I have available. But if it's just somebody saying, hey, you know what, I just want a 30-year term or whatnot, just to, if something happens to me, to knock off the mortgage, that could be the cheapest policy you can get.
mhm.
Now, if you want something that's going to build wealth, depending on your age and your health, you might have to put a little bit more money into it. But we have to think about, again, life insurance is for the living. It's not
Mhm.
just to bury somebody. There are people building enormous amounts of wealth using life insurance, and then using other things like putting it into a trust, putting into different real estate ventures, putting it into businesses. Is just money. And the fact is that you're buying dollars for pennies.
That's good. That is good. Hold on, let me restate that. You are buying dollars for pennies. Come on, talk about that. Keep going, keep going. I like that.
Yeah, so one of the things, especially this holiday season, if you know anybody who has young children, and you can't figure out what to get them for Christmas, because you're like, oh, I don't want to get them another toy, I don't want to give them something that they're just going to use for a little bit. Turn them into a millionaire. $12.50 a week will turn a young child into a millionaire sometime within their lifetime. It depends on how old they are, sooner or later, that they'll have over $1 million sitting inside their life insurance policy. you
Yes.
I can't figure out a better gift. You've just eliminated financial stress, worry, all of that for the child for the rest of their life. And then they could take part of that money with them being a millionaire. And again, that's just the seeds for the next generation, and then the next generation, and then the next generation. You could change your whole family's lineage. You can create generational wealth, eliminate any financial need for $12.50 a week.
Come on. Let me tell you something about $12. Tina, okay, so you new to me, but let me tell you what I tell people all the time. I always say 20 is the new five, right? Like
Mm.
once upon a time, McDonald's used to have a thing called the dollar menu. Now I'm out of Chicago. There is no dollar menu. You basically sometimes can get a large drink for $1. You can't even get a large fry for $1. You like there, they might give you a 2 for $3, but like you don't see all of the different things that used to be $1. You go anywhere now, like you are hard pressed to go anywhere with a $5 bill and come back with some change. So now
Mm.
it's like the 20 is the new five. Mostly everywhere you go, just yourself for lunch. $12.50. So when people are saying, "Oh my God, $12.50," yeah, you might say you think that that's too. Again, we got to change the way we think, and I love how you did that. Instead of saying $50 a month, saying $12.50 a week. Because here's the thing: you go to McDonald's, you go to Burger King. Now, mind you, I didn't say no sit down, no fine dining restaurant. I'm talking about fast food, and I'm talking about the cheaper of the fast food. I ain't even said nothing like a Culver's or like something where it's 14, $15 for one person's meal. You go to Wendy's if you want to and not get a biggie bag, you're gonna be paying that $10, $12. So it's like, isn't the person that you care about, isn't they aren't they worth that $12.50? And that's just one day. We didn't say you got to skip the week. You just skip one day
Just
without eating
one
out, and
time.
you can fund a policy. Now, let me ask you this, because I actually had two questions. As a matter of fact, if anybody else, because I don't want to hog it up, but if anybody else that's listening have any questions, feel free to put it in the comment section. And again, you guys are watching the Self Care Act. Feel free to like and share the video and tag somebody that you believe can benefit from this conversation that we're having, because a lot of people don't just sit down and talk to someone who can help you not just plan for death, but plan for better living. When you're talking about the children, is this a misconception? I was taught or heard that children, if you get a policy for your children, then once they turn 25, then they have aged out of that policy. So how would I be able to get a policy like what you said, get a policy for a child that I can pay for the rest of, until they, helping them to become a millionaire?
Yeah, so what you're talking about on that is a rider. So that's if somebody has a policy, let's just say a parent has a policy on themselves, and then they just add the children on as an attachment.
Hmm.
What I'm talking about is the child having their own policy. Now, the parent or the grandparent will be the owner of the policy and be the person funding it, but that child's policy will be there and be available for them for the rest of their lives. They're not just an attachment or an afterthought on somebody else's policy. This will be their own policy. And going back to what you were saying about McDonald's, I went to McDonald's just the other day and I got four of what I thought was the dollar menu burgers, and it was $15. I said, wait a minute, I'm supposed to only be spending $4. Like,
Well, right.
where does other $11 come from?
Yep.
And then that's when it hit me. I'm like, if I had a child, this would have been the start of their policy.
Yeah.
I just ate $1 million worth. I just ate $1 million, pretty
Just
much.
stop that. I
Right
just
there.
ate $1 million. That's its own hashtag right there. I just ate $1 million. Because truly, and you should use that, like, because we gotta start finding a way to put this out to people, like that dollars for pennies. And I just ate $1 million, because people keep thinking that it's so impossible to do. But especially around, you talking about like holiday time, Black Friday. And I always share this story. Like, I used to work in retail, different types of retail stores, and each store had the exact same concept, which was, we're going to hike up the prices 80%, sometimes 90%, to then put it on sale for 40% or 50% off. So it makes the shoppers think that they're really getting a great deal. Like, if you go in the store in, say, June or September, the price for an item might be $10. For Black Friday, it becomes 40, so that way they can put it 20% off. And
Mm.
then they're only going to have X amount in stock. So that way, once the ones that they're advertising for this 50, 60, even 80% off, they're advertising those. They only, each store only orders like 2 to 3 of them so that they can sell out. So that now that you're in the store, their whole thing is just to lure you to get you in there, right? Because
Yeah.
once you're in, they know that you're not leaving without something. And my thing for you is like, people have the money. It's like we just have to figure out a way. And listen to me saying we, like I'm your brand strategist. But here's the thing, like just figuring out how to get their attention, because the first go-to excuse that many of us like to use is I don't have the money. But clearly you have it. If you're eating out at fast food restaurants, you just ate $1 million. I love that. Like I think that's brilliant. You just ate $1 million.
Yeah. So again, and I don't know how this came to me just going back to trees, but it's all about planting those small seeds. Those small seeds. It's like you have the money. A
Mhm.
million dollars just doesn't happen overnight. But
Mhm.
if you can continuously plant that seed of 1250 and just water it over time, especially with compound interest,
Mhm.
you're not putting $1 million into this account, but it will grow to $1 million.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's just that. It's just showing people, hey, you have the money. You may be spending it, you may just be eating it,
Mhm.
but you have the power to change your family's history and to create generational wealth. Now, when people talk about generational wealth, I know that's a hot term and buzzword, but people just think like, oh, I'm going to get rich. You may not be the person to, again, going back to the tree, to sit in the shade or harvest the fruit, but you were the one who planted the seeds.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's even if you did nothing else great in your life, they'll say, "Oh, grandma was the one who planted the seed to grow our money tree. Now we have this whole orchard of millionaires."
Mhm. Mhm. That's
1250, that's
come
all
on.
it takes.
Come on. I
And I
love
know in our community, in our culture, we like, "Oh, I love my kids so much, I'll die for them." I'm not asking you to die. It's just 1250. That's it.
just invest, not die. Keep your life.
Hmm.
Now, I want to ask you one more thing, and then and we'll kind of we'll see where this goes, because it might go longer than what I'm thinking. But you talked about earlier, so we've talked about, getting policies for our children. So you talked about the difference between a writer versus having their own policies, and that you can start something for as little as 1250. But then you talked about, well, for those who may be looking to retire, how they can have extra, monies for that they can use for retirement. So can you talk about, like, what does that look like? Like how long would you have to let your policy grow in order to use it? Because there are certain things, like was the 401k or a Roth IRA, that if you try to use it early, there's a penalty attached to it. So how does this work? So like how long would I have to put away for my quote unquote retirement account before I'm able to draw against it? How does that work?
Okay. So again, the first thing I would ask would be like, how soon do you want to be able to touch the money? If because that determines which way we'll go. But if you're really wanting to use a plan for retirement, I would say there's a plan you can put your money into it, and I would just recommend that you don't touch the money for about 10 to 15 years. Just let it set it and forget it. Just let it grow. And then the next thing I would ask is, what is your retirement goal? Because retirement is not so much about an age, but it's about a number.
Mm-hmm.
If you hit your number, no matter what age you are, that you're like, hey, this is as much money as I need for the rest of my life for me to live comfortably,
Mm-hmm.
great.
Mm-hmm.
That you don't have to work until you're 65 or 70. It's whatever
Mm-hmm.
your number is. So it's just figuring out your goal there. And then what we'll do is just put your money into an account, just let it grow over the years. And the main difference between this and like a 401k and things like that is, one, like how you said, if you touch it before 59 and a half, you have taxes, fees, and penalties that you're going to have to pay. And
Mm-hmm.
these accounts, It doesn't matter what age. If you're saying, hey, you know what, I'm 40 and I want to take some of my money out, go ahead. Not only that, you have losses in your 401k. So if the market goes up, that's great. But if it goes down, you've just lost money. I was talking to somebody earlier today, and an interesting question came up. Where does the money go when
Mm-hmm.
you lose money?
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't figure out an answer.
Wow.
Oh, I lost money, and where did it go? I don't know. But in these plans, especially since you're putting it into a life insurance plan, you're not putting it into the market. So
Mm-hmm.
you don't have that downside. So when what happens when you put your money into these accounts, when the economy is going up and everybody's making money, you're making money. But when the economy goes down and everybody's losing money, you may not make any money, but you also didn't lose any money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's super important.
Mm-hmm.
Because how many times did you come across somebody who lost half their money in 2008 when the market crashed, or in 2020? My friend's grandpa's like, I got
Mm-hmm.
to work for another 15 years. And I'm like, I hope you got another 15 years in you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because that's scary. Because and I was just talking to somebody the other day about this. Like, for whatever reason, when we think about like in society, when we talk about age, and we'll always say like middle age, like we talk about it once a person getting there like 50s, we're like, oh, that's middle age. Well, if you go biblically speaking, and if you're a believer, like you're promised 70 years. So
Hmm.
middle age is actually 35. So
Yeah.
it's like you know what I'm trying to say. So it's like when you look at a society, especially in America, where I think they are saying retirement age is now like 67. I think at first it was 62, then went to 65, now 67, because they're saying, hey, we believe that the average person is going to be living older and living longer. Okay, but just because, say, if I live till 75, that don't mean I want to work till I'm 72. Like at what point do I get to actually relax and enjoy the fruit of my labor, as you were talking about fruit earlier? And so it's like, okay, how many years would you say? And I know a lot of this will be based upon how much money you're putting in to compound, but how many years minimal would you say would be a good amount of time for someone, whether they were 40, 45, some 50, something like that, saying that they wanted a retirement account, they want to use monies to for their wealth management years?
Okay. So I would put it this way: you either have time or you have money. Like for like I said, for a child, 1250 a week, they got time for that 1250 to compound.
Mhm.
If you're later in your years, you're gonna have to put in more money. 1250 is just not gonna cut it. But I would say the sooner you start, the better, because one thing you don't want to do is keep relying on your job and the government. you
Mhm.
know those two entities, I mean, you've seen all the time, the retirement plans are changing. There
Yeah.
was a video I saw the other day, that truck driver getting mad because the person from HR said, hey, your pension is gone, your retirement plan is gone. And then you can't depend on Social Security.
Yeah.
At max, people is getting
Yeah.
$2,000.
Mhm.
So I tell people, all of those benefits that you're like, oh, I got all these good benefits at my good job. You can buy those benefits elsewhere, and you can control them. You
Mhm.
know that if you set up your own retirement plan, especially one of these, the IRS code 7702, which just says you can put money into a life insurance plan, let it grow tax free, let it grow tax deferred, and take the money out.
Mhm.
So you can have it. But as far as like how much money you want to put in, that's going to depend on your age, your goals. Like I said, I got one lady, she is 62, and she's like, I want to retire in the next 10 years. I
Wow.
said, okay, well, we starting kind of, I would have wished you had started thinking about retirement before 62. But
Yeah.
hey, what
Yeah.
what you got to work with? But we found a plan, and she will hit her retirement number 10 years on the dot.
Now I ain't trying to get too nosy, but I gotta get semi nosy. You ain't gotta tell me who she is. But in that 10 years from 62 to 72,
Hmm.
What number is she paying for her to hit that goal monthly?
She because she's in her 60s, she's putting away about $700 a month.
Okay. Okay.
Hmm. But
Okay.
and that's coming from having no
Nothing.
retirement plan, no 401k, no save. Like she is just now starting.
Wow. Wow.
Hmm.
But see, let me tell you something, but that's actually not bad when you think about, say, if you have an average person that is saving something. If
Hmm.
you're saving, say if you're a person that saves $500 a month, then you're only to go in and hit $700 a month for 10 years. Like, and can I be a little nosier and
Yeah.
say what was her number? What was the number that she's trying to hit in 10 years, putting up $700 a month?
I don't even remember the exact number. I can look through my notes. I just know like, hey, we got it set up that she's gonna hit her number.
Okay.
Hmm.
And so, but that's what planning looks like, right? Like if you are a person that believes in preparation, and so I know a lot of these people who are listening, who have tuned in, y'all younger than 62.
Oh
So
yeah.
if you don't already have an insurance account, if you don't already have life insurance, like make sure it. So let's say if you do have insurance,
Hmm.
make sure that your insurance is set up to do these things that Tino has been talking about doing. Make sure that if you have insurance for your children, like if you just had riders for them, make sure that you get them their own policies. Make sure that your life insurance is set up in a way that you can draw from it, so it doesn't just benefit those who you leave behind, but it can still also benefit you while you're living. Tino, I just want to thank you so much for coming on to the show and giving people a different way of looking at life insurance, giving people a different way of looking at legacy. And so if people want to, we're winding down there. So what I would like for you to do is the three things. Number one, let people know how they can get in touch with you, how they may be able to contact you. Number two, if you have any announcements or things coming up, updates, let us know. And then three, leave a final word of encouragement.
Okay. So how you can get in touch with me? You can reach out. I'm on all social media at Gordon Legacy Consulting. You can go to my website, gordonlegacyconsulting.com. If you want to reach out to me on Facebook, just me personally, you can reach out to Tino Gordon, and you can give me a call at 815-414-6058. You can call me, you can text me. I'm super available. It'll go to the same phone that my friends and my family reach me on, even though that's my business number. And let's see, a message you said, right?
So, do you have anything coming up that we need to know about?
Okay, yeah. So the main thing, like I said, for this holiday season, $12.50 completely eliminates any financial stress, any financial worry, all of that. $12.50. Because think about it. If your parents did that for you, if your parents
Yeah.
already set you up that you would be a millionaire, then you could truly live life the way you wanted to. You
Mhm,
wouldn't have to go to a job that you don't like.
mhm,
You wouldn't have to be stressing like, oh, I see a lot of times, people go to work, they're stressed out at work, they come home, the kids stress them out, and then the cycle just repeats.
mhm,
Money would eliminate a lot of that stress.
mhm, mhm.
So again, that is just an amazing gift for less than four double cheeseburgers at McDonald's.
Part that
Yeah,
part.
yeah, and I truly, thinking about like just the struggles and stuff growing up. Like again, if we could have just eliminated that, if somebody did that for me, and then I take the money out of that policy and do it for my children, they
Mm.
take the money out of that. They don't have to pay for the policy because the policy's already paid for.
Yes, yes,
So it's just pouring it down, just passing it down, paying it forward to the next generation.
absolutely, absolutely.
Mhm.
Now, what would your final words be for our listeners and viewers today?
So, my final thing would be, again, live life with intention.
Mhm.
Don't just go through the motions. Actually live life. Think about the future. Think about, what will happen to you, not just when you're gone, but while you're here. What impact are you making? Sometimes we're so busy making an income, we forget that we're also making an impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just be intentional about that, and also protect your finances. If you're not doing anything else, protect your finances, because not to go off on a tangent, but remember what they did with the government earlier this year with the debt ceiling, and
Yep.
it was, well, we just gonna kick this can down the road.
Yep.
Guys, ladies
Yep.
and gentlemen, there's gonna be some big implications, some major effects that's gonna happen because they decided to just kick the can down the road.
Mhm.
Don't try to depend on social security. That might not be there.
Yep. Yep, that part. Absolutely. Well, Tino, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be a guest on the Self Care Act. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for the awareness that you are trying to bring to us. And not just, again, when I say us, I don't just mean black and brown communities, but I mean to people as a whole. It's so many people who are not educated about what needs to be done and what is possible, right? Like you don't have to be a millionaire to make a millionaire. So I want to thank you so much. And I'm going to put you in the back office while I close out the show. And while you're there, please put in the comment section all of your contact information. So just in case someone comes back and they watch this on the replay, they will be able to see that as soon as they get started. But thank you so much for being my guest. And to those of you who have joined in, those of you who have taken the time to watch, I want to say thank you guys as well. I'm hoping that you all learned something from the show today, the Self Care Act, the show we are teaching you, trying our best to show you how to love yourself, love others, and love life. Do understand that it is possible to do all three. It does not have to be either or, it can be both. And I want to thank my guest again, Mr. Tino Gordon, who took time out of his day to come and partake in this conversation and to share with you guys some things that I hope was very meaningful for you. And if you would like to be a guest or a sponsor of the show, then please feel free to send an email to TennilleJackson@yahoo.com. And what would it take to be a sponsor? Glad you asked. All you have to do is you simply have to uh, pick which package that you would like, right? So there are multiple packages that we offer. They start for as little as $100. So we have an entire weekly lineup and the ways that we educate and empower. Personally, we educate you through our Self Care Act show, which comes on Mondays. And then professionally, we're dealing with aspects of our entrepreneurship. So those of you who have a business that has a professional audience intended, that would be the day for you. But we also educate and empower politically on Wednesdays. Thursdays is socially with inspirational talk. And then spiritually is getting alignment with your assignment. So regardless of the type of business that you have and even your business budget, we have a sponsorship package that would fit every level and every person. And so think about taking your business to the next level. But even if you don't do it for your business, do it for yourself, do it for your family, do it for your life. So thank you all so much for tuning in to this show. And until next time, you all stay inspired. Thank you.